see where it goes.
That's what I do with everything. I just see where it goes. I'm like, fuck it, follow it to the end. We're gonna end up where we're
Yeah.
gonna end up, right?
Mhm.
All right, we're rolling on a river. I
Awesome.
I really want to learn about sleep.
Okay.
So,
There's so much to learn.
I mean, yeah, I know. That's why I want to learn about it.
Okay. Yeah. I know before we hopped on here, we were talking about like our background and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Should I dive into like what I do and
Yeah,
like
man,
who I
100%.
am?
Go for it.
Sure. Okay. So my name's Nicole. I am the founder of Your Behavior Gal, which is my online Instagram and my business now. And my main focus is supporting adults and everybody really with sleep and educating them, because I think sleep is forgotten about and we spend a lot of time sleeping, and there's a reason why, but it's usually last on the list. So I'm trying to bring that back and expand on the importance of it. And for me, I have my own journey with sleep. I've struggled with sleep since I was a child. My parents didn't know how to teach us to fall asleep properly. I have a twin sister. And so we have our own sleep dependencies around that because we've always been together. But yeah, they had trouble teaching us how to fall asleep on our own. They did cry it out. That was all they knew. And that didn't feel good for my mom and my dad, but you know, that's kind of how it was back then in the 90s. That's kind of all they had. And then I've struggled with sleep ever since. So into teenage years, I would sleep on my sister's floor, I think for like 3 years. I had so much anxiety around sleep. I would try to fall asleep on my own, and then I would end up in her room in the middle of the night. And then as an adult and early 20s, sleep was bottom of the list. First year university, you're just, you know, busy doing university things and studying, and but also realizing why is studying so hard. And I mean, when I look back, I was like, because you weren't sleeping. And then into adulthood and just managing my sleep and understanding why I had a lot of struggles with it, and I had a lot of weird rules around it. And then once I learned about sleep, I realized this is really just a biological process. Our bodies are all meant to sleep. It's the behaviors that we engage in every day, all day, that interfere with our ability to sleep at night. And that was like revolutionary for me. I was like, oh, so I can just make tweaks and my sleep will come easier and it's okay. And I don't have to like control sleep anymore, which was nice. So
Wow. Can you give an
yeah,
example of
some of my habits.
Yeah, like little tweaks that's gonna like aid sleep. Like that's something I mean, you know, your bedtime routine, like that makes sense. And
Yeah.
then the temperature and environment and all that. Like I've heard of that, but I've not heard about changing, you know, how you kind of live day to day to aid your sleep.
Yeah, so it starts in the morning.
Wow.
I know. So in the morning, so our body clock, and just for listeners, like we have this body clock, it's called our circadian rhythm. It's on a 24-hour schedule plus 15 minutes, but light anchors that clock so that we don't kind of push forward. That's why it's easier to go to bed later versus trying to get yourself to go to bed earlier. Our body naturally wants to move with the sun and the rotation of the earth and all of that. So using light to your advantage in the morning helps anchor your body clock to wake up. I used to spend a lot of time in the morning in the dark and wondered why, you know, I would feel tired and I would feel like hard to get into work, into school mode, into any of that. And by getting outside, you actually wake yourself up. It's like having a cup of coffee. You're better off going outside, getting daylight, even in the darkest of winters, because I'm here in Canada and our winter months can be so depressing. We're finally on the other side. But yeah, it's dark until like sometimes 8 o'clock in the morning, which is just not fun. But yeah, so getting outside, even if it's just a little bit of daylight, getting yourself walking and moving, and then making sure you're eating to get that body clock. Like your digestive system also has to start moving. If our digestive system clock isn't on our same with our sleep wake cycle, then everything kind of falls apart. So light's the first thing. So getting daylight in the morning, and you're in sunny New Zealand, I'm assuming it's very sunny and bright there. People also go outside a lot there. In the winters here, it's tough. And I guess even within the pandemic, we weren't going outside as much. And I think that really impacted people's moods and people's ability to sleep better. So we're on the other side now, I think. We've got restrictions are lifting here a
fingers
little bit.
crossed, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah. But that's one of the simplest things you can do is just get outside and moving. Even if you're just sitting outside, it just, your body it just turns everything on. And so you want that awake cycle to be on. You want your body to be awake so that when it is time to sleep, it can wind down. So yeah, there's the light piece in the morning and then in the night. So melatonin is something that's talked about a lot. And it's a supplement that you can get here in Canada, like over the counter, not regulated. It's something that's pretty commonly suggested. However, it's not common for people to actually have lower levels of melatonin, but there's a lot of things that we do to interfere with natural melatonin production. And melatonin is a key player in helping the sleep cycle commence, really. It's like the starter pistol. It just tells your body, hey, we're going on our incline here. It's time to get ready and shut down the body so that the mind can go rest and go to sleep. And a lot like things like scrolling on our phones, indoor lights, lots of blue light, TV can impact it. Just some, like I live in the dark, like at night, I'm like living in the dark, but some people keep their lights on and I just cannot. But it can keep you up. If you want to stay up later, turn all the lights on, get your happy light and shine that right in your face because that'll keep you awake. But yeah, dimming the lights 2 hours before bed or 2 hours before you want to go to sleep is a nice way to just signal to your body subconsciously, because it all happens through your eyes and neurons through there, that it's like, okay, it's time to go to bed. And then you'll feel tired in about 2 hours. And it helps that wind down process.
God damn.
I know. That's like the easiest thing you could do. I mean, that's like, not going to solve everyone's sleep problems, but it might help you. I think a lot of people struggle with the wind down at night because there's a lot of distractions.
Totally. And a super busy mind as well, right? Like people really struggle to switch off. And that's usually the problem with myself, and also people that would then ask me, be like, oh, I really struggle switching off. I'm like, fuck yeah, I understand.
Yeah. And a lot of the things like I noticed too for myself, and I think it's all about noticing and understanding why we engage in certain behaviors. And that's where my profession comes in, my education, because I'm a behavior analyst. I look at behavior and we do things because we get something out of it. And for me, for example, if I'm more anxious or if I have a really busy mind, watching shows that I've watched a lot before, like right now, The Office is on replay on my Netflix, that calms me down. And I notice that I turn to that more versus reading because I want to avoid the anxious thoughts that come up. So I use The Office to help do that. And it's not a great coping strategy, but I'm very aware of it. And I know I can change it if I need to, but some days I'm like, I'm going to give myself permission to do this today. And that's okay. And some people use scrolling to turn off, right? Because you're looking at other people's lives. You don't have to kind of face your own stuff. But scrolling is like the most activating thing we can do for our brains. And being on our phones in the evening. Like, you never know what kind of notification you're going to get. And you get a notification from like an ex that you like don't want to deal with, whatever, like if that's something that comes up, or some person who you just don't want to talk to, but they decided it's a good idea to text you at 8 or 10 at night. And now you're getting all switched on. Your brain, especially with social connections, that just lights it up. And now we're more alert. And who knows what kind of thought spirals that can trigger. And so preventative strategy is just put the phone away. I airplane mode at night.
Oh, I love that, man. Like,
yeah, just like airplane, shut it off, put it in a drawer. I always have backups. So like if someone needs, because I don't have a house phone anymore.
Yeah, no one has a landline anymore, right?
I know. So I'm like, what if there's an emergency? But if you have Find My Friends, you can ding your devices.
Wow.
In an emergency. I've had to do that before to my sister.
Usually I say, if it's emergency, you'll come find me.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if it's and you can always turn your phone back on if you need to call someone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But just putting it away and do not disturb, turning the notifications off, because I think the phones, and we have these computers and these amazing things that in our hands, but the technology has definitely interfered with our ability to just do nothing.
One of my mates brought up a really good point of like overstimulation. So you're always you've always got information available to you, and it's just kind of like, where do you cram it in? There's not enough space, especially in my head, right, to put all the pieces of information in. And then you say, for example, you're scrolling at night and you want to switch off, quote unquote, right, and you want to try and wind down. You're still consuming information, right? You're either reading this there, watching that there, whatever, looking at it, double tapping, whatever you're doing, right? And I'm like, you're always taking something in. And if we're always like doing that, then you're going to end up like falling to pieces, like in anything in life, right? Like if I'm always moving, I'll end up falling to pieces. If I'm always eating, I'm falling to pieces. Like if we're always like consuming something mentally, like we're going to be screwed.
Right. And sometimes it's not even your own drama or your own life problems. It's like other people's problems. And then depending on how you set boundaries with that, like personally, I feel like if someone else has a problem, I am very quick to take it on. So I have to really work on setting that boundary.
I understand.
Or if it's a family drama thing, or if things are coming up, like I feel like the nighttime and that 2 hours before you want to be asleep is your time, and trying to use that to, if you have a family, connecting with your family. If you have a loved one that you live with, or someone, or your dog, it's a time to just really get centered and like for you. And then that might ease things into sleep a little bit. It's something I've like, when I've worked with children and families, parents are busy too, and they are always switched on. They work a lot and they're busy. But it's that half an hour, 45 minutes before it's time to do like the bedtime routine, is like where we turn off phones, quality attention with their child. Their child is likely to fall asleep better because they've had that, like their cup is full, and they might not need that extra glass of water, snack, bathroom break, all the requests just to get more parent attention. And I think it does translate into adults as well.
Yeah.
Right. So
I think so.
Yeah, there's lots of, it's for sleep, it's a lot of looking at what do you do during your day? Where are you struggling to? Like sometimes, like the scrolling can be an avoidance of some thoughts that are coming up that you haven't quite dealt with.
Yep. We all have vices,
how do you
right?
manage? Yeah, and how do you manage the thoughts, and how do you move through it? And for me, the biggest game changer has been looking into mindfulness and understanding how our thoughts work. And not all thoughts are helpful. Like 90+% of our thoughts are unhelpful, and we get a million of them that come through every day. Like the I'm not good enough, or I made a mistake, and now you're spiraling into this like, who am I to be doing these things? That narrative that has come into your mind and created associations. So understanding that our thoughts are just moving past and we don't have to hook into them. And that's a nice strategy too to practice during the day. If it's meditation for you, if it's just sitting with music and letting the thoughts float by, noticing when you get hooked and how to just unhook yourself from it. Like, thank you for showing up. I don't need you right now. Keep on going. Has been super helpful for me, because that's really what you need for sleep too. When you wake up.
I think that's a really beautiful concept of like, you know, you're not your thoughts, and that's just kind of like happening for you, not to you, and you're not the victim, and it's not kind of defining you. You know what I mean? It's like just a conveyor belt, right? We're gonna okay, I want that one. I'll take it. I'll pick it up, and then I'll like dissect it and go with it, build it into something. I don't want that one. One can just like move along. You know, I think that's a really good way of thinking about it.
Yeah, I love the metaphors around it, and it comes from acceptance and commitment therapy, which is such an interesting. It's based in something called relational frame theory, which is like so complicated, but it's understanding how our thoughts, like, we do create associations, and our thoughts can control our behaviors, and it's noticing the patterns that we get into, and how can we reset that, and how can we, you know, not let them do that, because our thoughts, they don't control us. And it's something you don't learn as a teenager and or like when you're young. There's a lot of like, change your thoughts, like, oh, you should change it, don't think those thoughts. And as soon as you tell someone not to think about something, you think about it like 10 times more. Like, if I'm going to tell you, don't think about a pink elephant, like, can you not think about a pink elephant? No. Those things will come up for you. So that's, I think, a big key piece too for sleep, is that if you're really quick to get hooked by thoughts and you let your mind kind of ruminate and go into the spiral, that's when like insomnia can kick in and all of that. And now your cortisol levels go up. And if your cortisol is high, you're not going to be able to sleep. You're going to feel more alert. So it's managing all those systems. But the wind down, the 2 hours before bed, can be really helpful in making sure cortisol stays low, melatonin is on the rise. And that's what you need for your body to be able to get into sleep.
Here's a question, right? Okay. And this has come from experience, right? So recently I wake up and I've always got the same line of the same song stuck in my head. Like, I've been like talking to myself in my own head throughout the entire night, and I wake up and I'm already mentally alert. And like that, in contrast, right? Usually when I'm pretty good and everything is, I'm probably sleeping enough, and, you know, kind of everything else is good, like I've crossed the T's and dotted the I's, I wake up and I love my morning routine, and before I turn on my phone, because like that's when I have no thoughts, right? That's usually just like, that's peace, that's my calm, right? And you know, when you juggle a lot of balls and do a lot of things, you very rarely have any sense of calm. And when the world starts spinning, right, you're like, oh my God, this is going fucking quick, right? So that part in the morning is my like calm. However, why do I wake up? And a lot of people will be able to say the same thing. It's like already switched on thinking about something, and I don't even know where I am.
I don't know. I mean, we all naturally wake up a couple times in the night. Like, that's just part of the sleep cycle, but sometimes we don't remember it. Do you listen to music before bed?
No.
At all? No, it's just like a song that comes on. It's like, hello, we're here.
Yeah.
I don't know. The mind is a weird thing. I can't explain like why you have the same song every time. But I think it's noticing it and thanking it and letting it go. Like, if it's not keeping you awake, like if that is keeping you awake and you're confused. But I think the mind is so active at night. And from what I understand, and I haven't seen these MRI pictures, but I've seen them like in books, is that your brain is the most active and your body is just like off. Like it's lighted up here and it's darkness down here. So it could be that your mind's processing something, dreams, our place of problem solving, long-term memory storage. Like your REM sleep is like, that's when like kind of the stories and the dreams come in. And then deep sleep too is your mind's just active. It's doing all sorts of stuff. And your body's repairing everything that happened that previous day. So who knows why it's coming up? Maybe it's just like part of the processing that's happening.
Maybe. Or maybe I'm just crazy.
Maybe. But I doubt it.
No, I'm joking. No, like, you know, the mind is a powerful thing, right? And we believe we can walk around the earth and control it because we're active. And now you're putting yourself in a position where, like you said, your body is completely dark and shut off, and the brain's just doing its thing, you know, just kind of going into all these like places, and you're like, my God, this is insane, right?
Yeah. And that's where I think to the mental health side of sleep, they actually have used, there's been research done for veterans where they induced REM sleep, and REM sleep's the rapid eye movement sleep, and that has helped with processing trauma.
Wow.
And there's some, I don't know if you've heard of EMDR.
No, I haven't.
What it stands for. I forget what it stands for, so we'll have to Google it. But it's counselors use it, and it's moving eyes back and forth. And then they use it to talk about, like, to help process traumatic events, difficult emotions, because sometimes if you have to talk about something that's really hard, all you want to do is cry. And you can't separate the emotion from the thought or the experience, the thought of the experience. So using that, sorry, got a call.
That's all
right. Using REM sleep and using the rapid eye movement back and forth helps to separate it so that you can then process it. And it's so sleep helps with that. It helps with, you know, if you've had a really rough day, sleep on it. Tomorrow will actually be better because you won't feel as connected to that experience. You'll be able to process it in a way that your subconscious, like your sleepy mind, will just kind of save you from that and take away the distress. But if we're not sleeping, if we're not getting REM sleep, and a lot of our REM sleeps in the early mornings, like the last couple hours of sleep, the last like 3-4 hours. And if we're not getting that, then you're going to have trouble with your emotion, like your ability to process the events that maybe have caused distress or trauma, even because everyone experiences trauma in such different ways. So sleep is the best medicine for that, as well as counselors are using some EMDR strategies to help with that. But sleep's a natural way to help with, you know, managing the mental health and keeping it a bit more stable. Because I know personally, my anxiety is through the roof if I have like 2 nights worth of terrible sleep. And I am worried about when I have children one day, and I am going to be an anxious mess. And I'm accepting of it, but I also understand why I will be, because I'm just not sleeping. So I think that when it comes to mental health, I think you got to look at sleep first. And it comes back. It's a vicious cycle, because sometimes depression, anxiety can cause difficulty falling asleep, and then now you're not sleeping, and it just kind of perpetuates. And my biggest worry is like our teenagers. They don't get enough sleep, and the mental health in teenagers is just scary.
Yeah, it's the worst it's ever been, as we know, right?
Yeah.
And I can relate to that. Like if I have some shite sleep, or, you know, lack of sleep, just not enough hours, but it was pretty good quality, I'm on a ticking time bomb. So sometimes I can kind of get away with it for a little bit, and I'm like, oh, look at me, I'm Superman, you know, I can just kind of go, and then I get hit in the face with a brick, and I'm like, oh, I am mortal. And then
like,
other days, like legit,
Mm-hmm.
like other days I'll wake up and I'll be like, nah, this ain't right today, and I'll get super down.
Plan B.
Plan B,
Plan B day, and that's when it's it's giving yourself that grace to reset, and maybe it is like maybe you have to take a mental health day just so that you can engage in like going outside and taking care of yourself, and then you will sleep better the next night, partly due to that you had a bad sleep the previous night, but how to kind of maintain consistency. And I think sleep for adults is a missing piece in the system. Like it's very common for medication to be the first. Doctors, they'll prescribe medication, they'll also give you like basic strategies, but sometimes it is looking at the details and understanding why we're engaging in certain behaviors. How can we support sleep and help sometimes increase the length of it, or even consolidate it? Because some people sleep and then they wake up for a few hours and then they sleep, and now their body's in this habit. And it takes time. It's not going to be a simple Google fix. And so that's why I started supporting adults and kind of through this journey, and teens and kids and families, just because I just don't think there's enough.
So, in your professional opinion, what would you say is like the biggest kind of obstacle in terms of sleep with teens and with adults?
I think it's the schedules that we're meant to have every day, like the schedule of 9 to 5 work days. That's tricky because if you have to commute, I mean, I'm super grateful. I work mostly from home, but my parents, like, they would have to commute 45 minutes, sometimes an hour plus to get to work. And then they'd get home and they would be home later. So dinner is pushed later. Time with family is less. So like that connection time, Monday to Friday, like you get 5 days of this, you have to work. And then on the weekends, you're just catching up on sleep or trying to catch up on like things that don't necessarily serve you, like chores and whatever else. I think there's this expectation too of teenagers and kids and adults. They overschedule themselves.
Yeah.
So constantly, I mean, you worked in gyms, so people would be up at like 5 a.m., like hitting the gym, but then maybe they went to bed at 11 last night because they're procrastinating bedtime because they didn't get to connect after work with their family and whatnot. And then teenagers, school start times are ridiculously early for teens. I remember having to get up at like 6:30 as a teenager. But after puberty, our circadian rhythm actually shifts. So teenagers, and I think I look back to cave times where it made sense for like 13 to like 20-year-olds to stay up later because they had to like, you know, do their thing. Is that was like early adulthood, I guess. And so they naturally want to go to bed like 10, 11, and that's just their biology. So you're really fighting biology at this point. And then, but they still have to get up early. I think I saw something, it was like, it was in the States, a school started, like a high school started at like 7:30 a.m. And you're like, what? Why? Who needs to do that? Athletic schedules too. Like you were in athletics. I was in swimming, and
same.
Right. The pool times were
ridiculous.
Atrocious.
Yeah, they're fucked.
Yeah, like in the water, you had to be in the water 5:45 a.m. Okay, but the teenagers are in the water at 5:30, 45 a.m. And those teenagers, you know, had homework the night before, probably didn't go to bed till like 10. And so they're only getting 7 hours of sleep. And you're cutting their sleep short. They need like 9 to 11 hours. And like I said before, their REM sleep, which is their emotion processing, mental health key piece, is getting cut out.
And now you're adding all the stresses of like modern day life, right? And I think I'm not shitting on technology. It's what we're using to connect right now, and I think it's
so great. Yeah,
it's fucking phenomenal. But like now, like okay, now you can work 24/7. You know, like arguably the greatest invention before this whole technology thing was a light bulb. So then you didn't have to stop working when it got dark, right? You could literally go, okay, now we've got a day shift and a night shift. So then the productivity can then double throughout the 24 hours, right? And now we're doing the same thing, but now we literally have to commute half a meter from our bed to our desk, right? And now we can just continue on. And most people, they get up and the first thing, so I have like a morning routine and I send to all my athletes, right? Not as a set menu of this is, you have to do this. There's a couple points that I'm like, I want you to try this out and we'll communicate with each other to see if it actually like works for you. And everything else is kind of just malleable, right? You just change it for you as an individual. But one of them is like for the first at least 15 minutes, ideally half an hour, you don't fucking look at your phone.
Yeah.
Like, don't look at your phone. Like, I got this one lady that was notorious for it. Would just get up and she's still in bed and she's fucking emailing within 3 minutes of waking up. I'm like, dude, get off your phone.
I know. I took my email off my phone. I was like, I can't even have it because I'm easily distracted. And it's the habits of like, sometimes it's just the habit of turning it on and then you naturally just click the app. Like you're not even consciously choosing to click. Like you are kind of, but you're just like, you've got this like pattern of behavior. I open my phone, I click Instagram. I open my phone, I click my emails because it relieves some maybe anxiety around what's in my inbox. Oh, maybe I can address it now so that I don't have to address it later. But I think it's reinstituting that structure that we used to have when we were in school before tech. And, you know, dial up internet, great. It allowed that like space to like, do I really want to do this right now? Whereas now it's just so immediate. So yeah, it's creating some structure again around technology. And we have to parent ourselves almost to do that. So,
don't you think it's scary how you can get anxiety for not having your phone on you or getting anxiety for not like checking Instagram for 5 minutes?
Oh yeah. I remember when I went through the withdrawal phase because I had to, I was like, you need to separate, but it's tough the first time. And then once you do it, you feel a lot of freedom and you realize, hey, time actually slows down. I can't have the excuse if I don't have enough time anymore because I know how to expand time, and expanding time is just turning your phone off.
Yeah, taking out the fluff.
And because it just takes a lot of your like mental energy to navigate it all. Yeah, it's
one of the reasons why I called this the Nomadic Podcast, because you know I get to stages where you know I've had enough, so I delete everything from my phone, it gets switched off and I disappear, and I like will pop up somewhere random and then we'll come back whenever it's right, you know, and that kind of gives me the time. All you got to do is feed yourself, right? I don't have to go work out. I don't need to go see people. I don't need to check in with anyone. I don't need to answer an email or talk to people or whatever. It doesn't matter. Got to feed myself. I got to drink water, you know, and that's it. And I usually just sit down and do a lot of writing or thinking or whatever. And it's really cleansing. It's refreshing. Like, you go crazy though. Like you
the first little bit's really hard.
Yeah, you feel like you're losing your mind, and that you're losing a lot of like bad habits. You're cleaning yourself out, right? You've got to get I call it, you got to get ill. Right? It's like, oh no, it's fine, I'm just ill. It's like, what, have you got like a cold or COVID or something? It's like, no, I'm just like self-cleaning my mind. You know, I'm just getting ill and getting rid of all the gunk. And then when I come back to reality, right, I'll be like, okay, I'm good now. Let's just continue on with what we were doing.
Right. And then, you know, like, I think that space and time and giving yourself space and time, even if it's the 2 hours before bed, you can realize what's important to you. Did I actually do anything that was important to me today? Or did I do a lot of stuff serving others? Or am I just trying to like avoid? So I think that space is so nice. And the last 2 years, no one's really been able to take like a vacation. And now we have to like force ourselves to just turn off and pretend like you've gone somewhere far away and you don't have access to internet or Wi-Fi or whatever, and just see what happens. And that's where all the cool ideas come in.
Oh yeah. Super creative.
Yeah. I think I was listening to a podcast yesterday and they talked about Think Week, and Bill Gates does this. He does like Think Week, where he just goes off into nowhere and no one can contact him unless it's an emergency. And that's where all of his amazing ideas come from.
Yep.
And so I think we have to just make that more of like a regular practice.
Yeah. For sure. And I think,
not feel guilty about it.
Yes, that's a big one, man. That's a really good point. Like the guilt of giving back to yourself before you end up giving like so much more to other people is baffling. You can't pour for an empty cup. We know that, but it's like, oh, I can't take 5 minutes and like look after myself, check in. You're like, what? You can't take 5 minutes? Like you work 12 hours in front of people and you can't do 5 minutes for yourself? I was like, come on, that doesn't make any sense.
I know. Like, I think I have, like, you have clients, I have clients. And for me, it's like, I used to feel really guilty about taking time off. Now I feel some. But it's tough because I don't work, like, it's not a job where they have to come see me. Like they can easily access me because I'm online for the most part. And it has taken, I don't think I've taken a really long vacation, I guess, since my wedding in September, but that was like the longest. But I still felt it was nice to have the space, but I was always thinking about work. So it's trying to figure out how to set boundaries with work and home, and then social life as well. Or the expectation of
that poses a lot of anxiety for a lot of people, and that honestly that's me as well, like, because I'm a natural introvert, right? So I can sit down and not really see anybody and I just kind of live the life. However, I know that's not not the best way to live, right? So I'm like, okay, cool, I got to pull myself out of that. However, the thought of like, oh, I've got this and this to do, and this to do, and this to do, and this to do, and then I also need to fucking go see people because I can't be a hermit. And I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? Like, I don't have any space to, like, I don't know, shake a dick or something. I'm like, I can't do anything. You know, it's that's really hard, that little anxiety for the social pressure.
Yeah, I'm an introvert too. I could literally, like, the pandemic was nice at the beginning. I was like, oh, I can do nothing. No one expects me to come out and I don't have to go out. But yeah, I think what I learned from that was I can set boundaries around it. And I think at the end of the day, it does come to boundaries. And I know we're kind of digressing off of sleep, but our ability to manage our days will help us sleep better at night. And that's the funny part, is that if you can kind of do all of this and set boundaries and feel comfortable and take care of yourself, as well as connect with others that's meaningful to you, your anxiety might be lower, your cortisol might be lower, and it all, you know, can result in better sleep. Like, it's funny, and I just had this thought about it the other day, but I met my husband, and once we like were dating and it was like official and everything was like secure, I had the best sleep of my life. I was like, because that was a missing part of what was important to me at that point. And I was like, okay, so I think there's a big piece here. And usually if we're struggling, it means we're not living to what's important to us. And there's misalignment. Right? I was like, hey, this has something to do with it.
It's all connected, man. You know, like, everything in life is connected. We think it's all separated and fragmented. And like, no, dude, like, you know, everything just kind of flows within each other, right? It's like a rope. There's just thousands of like little pieces of string just kind of like intertwined with each other, and then it creates this thing that we call life. And it's like, okay, if one thing falls to pieces, right, that might not immediately affect you, but somewhere down the line is going to end up affecting somewhere else in your life. But then you can also flip that coin on its head and be like, okay, cool, I'm going to focus on this bit a little bit more, right? Next thing you know, you're sleeping better.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's where, like, sleep, I try to talk about it too from like a very like holistic approach, where it's like, it's not, there's lots we can do at night to hopefully you'll sleep better, but what's happening in our days, what's happening in our lives that we can change, and you might start to see things shift and sleep just come a little bit easier. It's funny because the more you try to control sleep, the less it's going to show up. So it's letting go a little bit of it, but setting yourself up for success as well. So yeah, it's like an individual approach for everybody, and deeper dives which is helpful. But I'm happy to have these conversations because I just love talking about it. So great.
Mate, seeing someone, kind of live through their passion, right? That's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, the equation is a lot bigger than we first thought, right? It was like, okay, physical health. You're like, okay, yeah, we got the physical health, yeah, cool. But then like, we have something called a neck that controls us to our like control panel. And without, our control panel, we're kind of nothing. I was like, oh, okay, now we got mental health. I'm like, okay, great. Well, they're kind of connected, right? You need to like work in synergy rather than allow them to work together. I was like, oh, okay, fine. We now have physical and mental health. I'm like, okay, great. But there's also a hell of a lot more that comes into this conversation. You're like,
yeah.
what do you mean? It's like, well, there's like all this, right? The world is abundant. Like the universe just keeps on expanding, right? And so do we. Like consciousness keeps on expanding. We're just gonna learn and grow and develop, and that is the point. And I think bringing everything into the mix and be like, oh yeah, think about this, think about this, think about this, if you want, obviously. Don't just like overstimulate yourself. But I think it's important, mate. I think it's important, bringing it all in.
Yeah, awesome.
What about naps? Are you a big fan of naps?
Oh, naps. I mean, I'm not a napper. I did the other day because I was tired, but it was like 20 minutes while watching The Office. But naps are good. I think you can use them to your advantage. For athletes, naps are great. Like if you're napping in between events, right? As swimmers, I think Michael Phelps, he was a napper. I also used to nap between races and between practices and things like that. And that helps with motor, like muscle memory, problem solving, like managing your anxiety around your races or your performance. Naps can be awesome in just as little as 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And you can feel like whatever you just learned can be more, I guess, ingrained in you. So naps are great for athletic performance. They're also great for if you really need one, like if so we naturally have this dip in the day, like where our circadian rhythm starts to go down. So that usually starts around like 2 p.m. And so some people feel like they do need a nap because the sleep pressure is just too much and maybe they had a rough night's sleep. Keeping naps short, but ending them at least before 3 is probably your best bet. You just don't want to nap too late in the day because then that will push your sleep later, and then you're still going to have to get up at the same time probably, and now you're kind of pushing your circadian rhythm forward. So naps they're good, but you just want to make sure you're not taking too long of a nap so that it's not interfering with falling asleep at night. So strategic napping. Also studying. If you study something and you're like, I am not getting this, go close your eyes, even get into a little bit of sleep, come back, you'll probably know the answer. Or it will just be your memory will have stored something. So that helps too.
So sleepy way to better grades.
Oh, exactly. Don't pull all-nighters. That will not help you when it comes to the test. You're better off going to bed not knowing it, but reading through it and then waking up and then going to take your test or reviewing your notes and being like, okay, that clicks.
Wow.
Like your brain does a lot of the problem solving during sleep.
Wow.
So you can train it to do it.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's a great trick. And I never did all-nighters. Never. I know my husband did. He did okay in school. But it's that's another trick too for studying and just if you want to learn something or if you want to even process maybe a stressful event, like just go have a quick nap and use that to help you reset.
Wow. Like it really is like a reset button, right? And you digest things. You're like, okay, let's kind of like refuel yourself mentally and then go again.
And just let your brain do its work. You're like, okay, brain, you do your thing. I'm just gonna lie here.
That sounds good.
You can just have conversations like that so that you're taking the control out of like your consciousness and be like, I'm just gonna let this settle in here, and then maybe I'll deal with it later.
Wow.
But the brain's like it's a powerful thing.
Yeah, and we still don't know what it truly does.
Nope.
That blows my mind.
I know. And we're always like thinking about it, but like that's what's going on in there. You're like, what? So weird.
It just does it automatically.
Yeah.
So I got 3 questions.
Okay.
All right. What's the greatest piece of life advice you've ever received?
Oh, sleep on it. Actually, my swim coach told me to do that a lot. He's like, don't react, just sleep on it.
Wow.
Okay. And then now, hindsight, like
great piece of advice.
Best thing ever.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I wonder if they knew what they were actually saying, or it was just kind of like, this old wives' tale that was like, oh no, go sleep on it, you'll figure it out.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he might kind of, but I don't know if he prioritizes sleep. He came to my wedding. We're still friends.
Wow.
But now he knows what I do. So yeah, I feel like it's interesting that he said that. And it would have been like, years and years ago that came up when I was coaching as well. So
it's come full circle. That's really nice.
I know. Yeah.
Life. There was little nitbits in life, man. Honestly, they make it.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
That's so cool.
Well, what's the worst piece of life advice you ever received?
Get up really early in the morning to do your morning routine. I was constantly getting that from like I was like, everyone's like, when like 5 a.m. club was a thing. Yeah, I think it still is. Like, I get the concept of the book, but I'm like, I disagree with the 5 a.m. approach. But I tried to do that, and I tried to do that for a while, and I was a hot mess for a long time. But I was like, the key is the morning routine. Everyone talks about this morning routine. And then and then when I started learning about sleep, I was like, scrap that idea. Not doing that.
That's what I do. I get up at 4.
Yeah, but does it work for you?
Yeah. Like like mentally I'm tapped out in the evening. Like as soon as I've eaten, like I can't cognitively hold a conversation, basically put me to bed. You know what I mean? Like I'm completely shut down. And then in the morning, that's usually like, I'm usually super creative, kind of my brain's firing. So like, it's just kind of naturally my ability is more like kind of front loaded than back loaded.
And that's a good point, is that everyone's circadian rhythms are very different. And from what I'm understanding, I think some people, and I don't know if it's just men or not, but I think it's more of like a masculine model for that. Like it works really well for that. I guess men mostly, or probably some women do too. But everyone's body clocks are very different. And so if I tried to do that for mine, I knew I still wasn't going to bed at 10, like earlier than 10. And then if I had to get up at 5, that's still 7 hours. And I'm like a 7.5, 8 hour. I'm like an 8-hour person, at least like 8 hours consolidated sleep. And I was a hot mess with that. So it's like that for me, like the morning time, and it wasn't working. But for some people, they're the most creative then. Others are more creative at night. So it's really figuring out what works for you.
Yeah, for sure.
But I felt the pressure that I was like, I'm like not going to be successful unless I have this like extravagant morning routine. But for my body, it just didn't work out.
Yeah, I think
sometimes in the summer though, in the summertime, like when it depends on the season, I can get up a little bit earlier because I love sun, and you got to take advantage because we don't get it a ton here. So I'm more likely to hop out of bed if I can see the sun. But yeah, for me, it's more being in touch with the cycles and like where my body's at, versus like you have to do this or you fail kind of thing. And so that was my, I guess, not saying that your advice is bad, but for me, it didn't work out so well.
No, like I'm a big advocate of like figure out what you want to do, right, and just kind of live the way you want to live, like live and let live type stuff. Like a lot of individuality. You know what I mean? Like everyone's gonna be slightly different, and if that means you're nocturnal, great, go do your thing. Like try different ones and trying to maximize your potential, which is great. But like I know for me, like if I wake up a little bit later, sometimes I can be, if I get more sleep, I'm like, okay, great, a little bit more productive. However, I'm a very habitual creature, and I usually have to do the same thing. And if I get up a little bit later and the sun's already up, like that triggers something in my mind where it's like, oh, you're already on the back foot. Like you've got to catch up with the day type stuff. I'm like, and it freaks me out. Usually poses me with a lot of anxiety. So I'm like, okay, cool. Like I'm going to get up a little bit earlier. Nobody wants anything from me, not even the day. And I'm like, okay, I'll like set what I need to. I'm like, I'm in somewhat of a good position. Cool. Now let's go with it.
Yeah. Awesome.
But I know people are the opposite, right?
Yep. And I think it's the key point there is carving out time that's just for you and that you can just be, you. And so sometimes that's evening for some, and then some that's morning. As long as you're feeling rested and rejuvenated, that's fine.
It's all good.
Yeah.
3 words you would tell your younger self.
3 words, like 3 specific words?
Yeah, or you can make a little sentence with them. Or
I feel like it's all going to be okay.
Yeah,
because I was a very anxious kid. Yeah.
I feel that hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Worry a lot. Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, it is all going to be okay.
All works out in the end, mate. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
We're all going to end up in the same place. So we might as well have a good time before we get there.
Exactly. This is true. That is the ultimate truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You ain't going to cheat death.
No.
You can beat it at poker, but you're not going to cheat it.
Yeah.
Mate, I just really appreciate your time and everything that you do. Like, sleep is the glue that sticks everybody together and holds us all together. And I think not many people are talking about it as in depth as you are, which is baffling, but I appreciate you so much for it.
Oh yeah. Thank you. I just love it. It comes from my own struggles, and then I just want to help everyone else. So,
and that shines through, mate. And it's really, it's an honor to watch, mate.
Oh, thanks for having me on here.
I appreciate it. Well,
happy to come back anytime.
Yeah, we'll chat soon, like 100%. Like I'm always up for a conversation. We'll grab a coffee, chat some shit.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye, everybody.